Northeast has the majority of IDPs in this country. And once this pandemic enters the camp, only God knows how it will going to be. But for them to foresee this and start this initiative, that is all commendable.
Mothers have been told to ensure that their children are clean by providing water for them so that they make sure they bath the children regularly.
And furthermore, in line with the government's approval for a monthly review of Premium Motor Spirit PMS pump price, Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency (PPPRA) has announced a PMS pump price of 123 naira 50 per litre. The price, which becomes effective 1st April 2020, shall apply at all retail outlets nationwide for the month of April 2020. A statement signed by the Executive Secretary Abdul Kadri Saidu said PPPRA and other relevant regulatory agencies shall continue to monitor compliance to extant regulations for a sustainable downstream petroleum sector. All right, that's the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Jume just after the break. To stay with us.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
The main way coronavirus spread is when infected people sneeze and cough. Small droplets of fluid expelled by cough or sneezes are laced with viruses looking for new respiratory tracts to infect. When a sick person sneezes around someone who is healthy, the virus can land in the nose, mouth, or even the eyes, causing an infection. Symptoms can include fever, cough, shortness of breath. Symptoms may appear within 2 to 14 days. Seek medical advice if you develop symptoms and have been in close contact with a person known to have COVID-19, or if you live or have recently been in an area with ongoing spread of COVID-19. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Before now, no visually impaired had graduated with a first class here. And most times, it's not because they are not that intelligent or hardworking, it's just because they lack basic amenities of studying. Being visually impaired, for every effort a sighted person puts in, you have to put at least double of it.
All right, it's still Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Let's now, of course, take a look at the papers that we have this morning.
and to keep you updated on trends happening in Nigeria today. We begin with the Daily Sun newspaper, just beside the masthead of the Daily Sun newspaper. COVID-19, 23 new cases confirmed in Lagos, FCT, Akwa Ibom, Osun, Edo, Ekiti, Kaduna and Bauchi as figures rises to 174. With a rider, global cases to reach 1 million soon. That's coming from the World Health Organization. You find that story on page 7. And the bold headlines there is, on day 2 of total lockdown, federal government okays 4-hour food sales daily. With riders, markets now open 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Approves release of 70,000 tons of grains. Presidency lists 50 measures government is taking. And Malami writes heads of court on time-bound cases. That's on page 3. And the picture story there, fumigation of a street in Langtang North local government area of Plateau State against the spread of COVID-19 yesterday. Civil defense operatives arrest trader who defied FG's order to stay at home at Mararaba, Nasarawa State yesterday. Scores killed as NAV bombs bandits hideout in Niger. That story is on page 4. IPMAM threatens strike over fuel price reduction, claims marketers lost 5.5 billion in last reduction. You find that story on page 6 and 25. Lockdown, presidency, APC governors hit Soyinka, Falana and Adegoroa. That story is on page 26. At the bottom plate of the Daily Sun newspaper, donations to COVID-19 relief funds hit 15 billion naira. You find that story on page 3. Kinsley?
Okay, we have the Nation newspaper as well, and virtually all of the front pages on COVID-19. Above the nameplate of the Nation newspaper, CBN and Coalition raised 15.32 billion naira to fight virus and pleas for more cash. Details on page 27. My COVID-19 story by Makinde. Makinde is the governor of Oyo State, and why no lockdown yet. That's on page 8 in greater detail. Buhari approves release of 70,000 metric tons of grains. And presidency to Soyinka, virus about science, not fiction. Details on page 2. And below the nameplate, you have some headlines there. One of them says, jets bomb bandits in Niger. Kaduna relaxes curfew, and 200 houses destroyed in Benue. Foreign returnees import 12 COVID-19 cases into state. That's Osun State. And Osun, of course, is now, according to one of the writers, seeking federal government support. Results of 56 tests expected, and Akwa Ibom gets 5 cases as national tally rises to 174. Now, you can see there is a sidebar on the front page there. I say COVID-19 global cases. That's well over 926,000. The WHO, of course, is indicating that in a matter of days, that figure could just be about 1 million. Deaths, according to the paper, 46,438, and persons who have recovered, 193,431. And then below that, you can see the number of cases by country and also the fatalities. Now, the United States of America is leading the world in terms of the number of cases of COVID-19. The U.S. has 210,714. That's, of course, followed by Italy. But Italy has the highest number of fatalities, the figure being 13,155. This is followed by Spain. Spain has 9,131 persons, who have died so far. And I think you'll see the United Kingdom is also the United Kingdom, 2,352. And for Nigeria, you see there, COVID-19 cases so far, 174, fatalities 2, recovered 9. So we have active cases of about 163, with Lagos still having 91 of those cases. There's something that I saw inside the pages of the paper. This is at page 6 of the Nation newspaper. We can't put that on the screen now, but it says men make up 70% of infected persons, according to the Nigerian Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Ihanire, says that 2,000 persons, of course, have already been tested, and burial of virus victim not as risky as Lassa or Ebola. I think that's a very important clarification there. Yes. There's a better understanding now of the behavior of coronavirus. Coronavirus is a respiratory tract infection in the first instance, but the Lassa fever and Ebola, these are hemorrhagic fevers. You have to be in contact with a person for you to contract it directly. There has to be bodily contact or contact with the fluids of the individual. But in the case of coronavirus, it's out there in the air, and of course, if you inhale it from somebody who has the virus, then of course you could also contract it, even though you could be going around without showing symptoms for quite a while. Now let's return to the front page of the Nation newspaper. Nigeria and others seek $100 billion debt relief. And also inside the paper, you have Lagos patient that's on coronavirus raises hope in video. And Sokoto tracks 11 foreign returnees. IDPs get Danjuma's 1 billion naira for food and vaccine for treatment under test. You don't use a vaccine for treatment. A vaccine is used for prevention, I believe. The Tinapa Hotel for Isolation Center. Palliatives, 1 million get 20,000 naira each. Rivers lawmakers donate salaries. JAMB gives 3 ventilators. Oyedepo donates medical equipment. And Oyo Center ready Monday. Saudi Arabia asks Muslims to delay Hajj bookings. Yes. So these are the headlines that and the riders that we have on the front page. Very significant because JAMB offering 3 ventilators. JAMB was able to conclude its UTME for the year just before the figures for coronavirus began climbing in the country, and then it then started having lockdowns or restriction of movement in some states. So kudos to JAMB for what they have done there. In addition to, of course, that is their social responsibility as a corporate entity, even though a government agency. They have given 3 ventilators.
That's a good move, I believe.
Yes.
The way assistance is coming in from all over the country, it's quite commendable there. And I think, and Ipman, I saw Ipman threaten strike over fuel price reduction. Claims they are losing a lot of money since the last one.
Well, I think my attitude will be let's pause that in the meantime and focus on the more substantive issue of containing further spread of coronavirus. The price reduction has now been from 125 naira to 123 naira 50 kobo. So what is the purpose of going on strike?
I don't know.
IPMA doesn't fix the prices. It's the price modulation rather. It's by the agency of government, PPPROA, that does that. A number of their members took quite a while to climb down from 145 to 125. So what is the big? In any case, you don't have a great deal of patronage now in the areas where you have the lockdown. So that's part of what we're seeing. Now, there is a story that it's also been trending, and that story is coming from Cross River. The governor of Cross River, Professor Ben Ayade, is said to have issued a directive that all residents of Cross River who are stepping out of their homes must wear a face mask. Otherwise, they will be arrested by the security agents. I think, well, the intention is good, but the ultimate utility is questionable.
Yes.
The WHO, of course, has its own body of experts that is advising it on whether or not, a face mask is efficacious in preventing further spread of coronavirus. Yeah. And I think that in the next couple of days, the team of experts will give their latest opinion on the basis of some research that has also been conducted. Otherwise, the standard advice by the WHO is that you don't have to wear a face mask unless, of course, you are already a carrier of the virus, or you are caring for somebody who has the virus already. But to be going about with a face mask at all material times would seem to be a tough one. And this is, in my opinion, part of the challenge that the Cross River State might face. The governor says, look, the state garment industry or factory has been issued instructions to produce the face masks. Congratulations, that's a wide step, to take. But here we are. What is the population of Cross River, and how many face masks are you going to produce? A face mask is supposed to be disposable. It is not something that you take and then you keep it, because then how do you use it? Because that's part of the advice that the WHO and other medical experts will give you, that once it is being used, then you are supposed to carefully take it off and then dispose of it, so that, assuming there are germs or viruses already on the outer surface, you don't get your hands contaminated by that, because they then go home and then you start touching your face or touching your nose, and then that becomes a problem. So how many disposable face masks is Cross River likely to produce?
And before it is produced, how it's getting quite expensive. One for 500 naira is expensive. So if you have to go out, come back, go out, come back, you're spending like 5,000 naira in a day.
Wow,
it's quite expensive.
It's something that they have to look at. As I said, the intention is good, but let it not appear to be rather misguided. Akwa Ibom has now come on the map of states that have COVID-19. Akwa Ibom here is reporting 5, according to the NCDC latest figures. Lagos, of course, still has 91, FCT 35, Osun 14. You have the latest set of imports, 12 persons who were said to have come in from Cote d'Ivoire. So you're having the importation now of COVID-19 from the West African sub-region. And don't forget, there was the American who went into Ekiti, was said to have come in through Benin Republic. Benin Republic. But it does appear that it is not all the countries on the African continent that...
Communicating closely with the councillors, not even ward chairman. We have to micromanage this so that at the end of the day, those security threats we already had pre-lockdown do not exploit the situation at the moment to thrive.
Nations are battling, directly and indirectly to improve their, domestic and international security. What is happening in Nigeria? We've been hearing of cyber crimes now, people hacking into people's WhatsApp phones and everything. How can, sort of curtail it in Nigeria in the midst of all the scare of COVID-19?
Most people will be working from home, particularly our corporate brands, companies, if you like. And other than that, our public offices, our government agencies may also be constrained to work from home. They may be compelled to work from home. For the corporate entities, I do have a concern, but my concern is not as intense for them as it is with the public entities. What clearances are in place for persons who have to work on home and access documents they would ordinarily have had to access in the office within, if I want to say, the secured confines of an office space. We must look at that. I don't know, I don't think we have a cyber command within our intelligence and security agencies yet, but this is a nice place to start thinking about one. Because I tell you, if we do not handle this properly, you can imagine what any hacker can do at this point to you can need to make a lot of things impossible. Don't forget, I told you, communication is one key asset we will lean heavily on during this lockdown, because it's the fastest way we can move and speak and get across to each other. And if this communication is e-driven, then it's probably going to be superintended by persons who are at home, and there's going to be an issue. Then coming about the domestic average Nigerian who is outside of all these prospects I'm mentioning, the average Nigerian who lives from hand to mouth is also in a quandary. Is in a quandary because ordinarily he has to go out every day and earn the monies with which to buy a meal. So there's nothing like stockpiling. There's also nothing like savings. There's no fallback. There is no soft landing. But the hope I have is if we micromanage the lockdown, if we go 2 steps down from our positions, then we should be able to reach these people, because they will have not only the lockdown as we know it, they are also going to have a nutrition lockdown. The nutrition lockdown is going to affect their health status. Their health status affected is going to make them even more amenable to contagion. And all you see, it's a network, it's a cocktail of challenges, but I tell you, it can be managed. We can manage it if we all heed this.
Aleo, sorry, the Skype it's gone poor. We will return to you. I mean, once your Skype connection stabilizes. But let's bring in now Kabir Adamu. Kabir Adamu, of course, you can see him there on the right side of the screen. What do you see unfolding in terms of new security threats on account of this pandemic?
Good morning, Kingsley and Halima. Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians. For me, there are advantages, opportunities, and then unfortunately challenges that I imagine. On the one hand, you have criminal groups and other threat factors in our society that are being constrained by the new policy measures by government. So the movement restriction, the curfews that are in place in different to some of these threat factors, they've been affected. They can't move from one place to another. So that's a very good opportunity for policing and other security agencies. On the other hand, you have a situation where, because of the attention of these security agencies and policy makers is diverse, where these criminal groups and other threat factors will now scale up their activities, and already we've seen reports of that in different locations. And an example, especially where governance is weak, unfortunately, in places like the Northeast, we've seen several incidences in the last few days in banditry in some parts of Northwest, in places like Niger, Zamfara, Kebbi, Sokoto, Kaduna. We've seen increase in some of these banditry activities. Opportunistic crimes, because of this dislocation I've mentioned, we've seen an increase in that type of opportunistic crime, mainly because lifestyle changes have created gaps that are being exploited by these groups. Then thirdly, you have some criminal groups and threat factors that are already embedded inside the health sector. So we're seeing fake items and PPEs and personal protection equipment, fake ones are being produced by some of these criminal groups, and they're already exploiting the demand for these items. And we can imagine the consequences on coronavirus. Tests will be conducted, and of course the efficacy of those tests can never be guaranteed, because these criminal groups are taking advantage of the supply chain for these items. And then fourthly, which Captain Ali Umar has spoken about, is the cyber crime. And to this end, I'm happy to note that Interpol is already a step ahead. It has released a report, and the Nigerian police has already taken advantage of that report, and the Inspector General of Police released a circular to that effect, warning Nigerians on the different components cyber crime that will affect. Here, I would like to, maybe make a correction on what Captain Ali Umar mentioned. We do have an agency that is responsible for cyber activities, the cyberspace in Nigeria. Firstly, the ministry headed by Mr. Sheikh Fanti, and then of course you have NIDA. They all are looking at issues of cybercrime, and I know they are monitoring the space currently. We've seen an emergence of new cybercrime activities, and hopefully we're waiting for a statement. What I'm not sure, and this is partly a recommendation to government, I know there is a presidential task force on COVID-19. I don't know if they have involved the authorities on cybercrime that I've mentioned. If they haven't, then it's a good opportunity to involve them, because clearly threats and risk associated with the cyberspace are going to increase. A lot of us, I mean, this is a good example. You have 3 guests, 2 of us are using, cyber platforms to speak with you, to speak to Nigerians. Usage of the cyberspace has increased tremendously, and because of that increase, a lot of the crime factors that we'll be discussing will be coming from this space. So definitely there is a need to give it a lot of attention. There are so many aspects of these 4 areas that I've mentioned, and perhaps in the course of our conversation we'll look at them closely.
Being a step ahead.